So as unfortunate as it is to admit, Transformers is low-key dying. Every and anything after The Last Knight has kind of flopped number-wise, and you would assume that the franchise is burnt out, but me personally, I don't feel like it's a matter of Transformers just being washed. It's more so the guys directing the ship. Continuity, logic, and a little bit of love and affection is all this franchise needs. I genuinely don't see why it's so hard for the people working on these movies to just make a sensible timeline. Bumblebee was the perfect reset after the bludgeoning that The Last Knight did to the franchise, but instead of capitalizing on the foundation that the absolute GOAT Travis Knight laid out, let's just go from 1987 California to 1994 New York. Let's also not mention anything that happened in between that time period. It doesn't matter. Speaking of not mentioning anything between the time periods, the Decepticons? Megatron? What? Yeah, let's completely forget about those guys and the fact that the military knows that the Cybertronians exist.
They literally call themselves Decepticons.
I'll do you one even better. Let's make an animated Transformers films that has nothing to do with Rise of the Beast or Bumblebee to confuse the fans even more.
I'm fucking confused, bro.
Oh my god, we are cooking right now. But Transformers now seems more like a cash grab than it ever did during Michael Bay's first 4 films.
Money!
Basically what I'm saying is the reason Transformers is failing is because the people don't really care. For real this time. And this is where I come in. In a perfect fantasy world, let's say Paramount or Sony, hopefully not, gives me full creative control over the direction of the Transformers films. My first order of business would be to once again reset the timeline. Yes, another Transformers reset. As sad as it is to say, this series is once again in dire need of a reset. The current universe is just so convoluted, and it doesn't help that the people working on these movies still say that the current universe is somehow tied to the Bayverse, which is a convoluted mess in its own right. Even though I truly love the Bayverse, I gotta call a spade a spade. Also, G.I. Joe. Nothing else needs to be said.
Pork chop sandwiches! Oh shit, get the fuck out!
So we're resetting the timeline once again, and we're really resetting the timeline.
So if you look at it from a timeline point of view, it follows Bumblebee.
I started from the ground up with no ties to the Bayverse or whatever this is. Now let's lay down the groundwork. In a perfect world, I'd want to have an interconnected Transformers universe, but the world is far from perfect. An interconnected universe would be so good because of how many characters there are and the depth you can go into with those characters. Now, unfortunately, if we're being realistic, the likelihood of this ever happening is very slim. Partly because it would take like 30 years to make a live action Transformers movie that doesn't take place on Earth. And we aren't with that childish animation stuff over here. We're looking at you, Transformers 1. So, a better and more realistic approach would be to take things back to basics. We're gonna bring the Autobots and Decepticons War to Earth with the first installment into a 4-movie saga. We don't need the Predacons, the Maximals, or any of these unnecessary subgroups that are there to sell tickets.
That's just pride.
Just keep it simple with the Autobots, the Decepticons, the Dinobots, and possibly the Terracon. I don't want this to be a very realistic take on the franchise while not completely straying away from the foundation of things.
What's this?
Kind of like what Bumblebee did, but a tad bit more. It's gonna get dark at times, but only when necessary. Optimus isn't going out of his way to find the most brutal way to kill an enemy for the sake of finding the most brutal way to kill an enemy.
Oh, come on, man.
Another thing that's going to be different is the portrayal of the Cybertronians. Every Cybertronian worth talking about is going to have a vastly unique personality, kinda like the 80s cartoon, but in a more modernized way. The inspiration for this is from Euphoria, as crazy as this might sound, but hold on, let me cook here. One thing I really admire about Euphoria is I love how the characters in the show all have vastly different personalities and reasons for why they have those personalities. They all went through their own traumas and horrors in life that shaped them into the extremely flawed individuals that they turned out to be. I think that's some very powerful storytelling, and I don't want to implement something like it in a Transformers franchise because this series has a notorious reputation for being mindless action, which majority of the Michael Bay films weren't if you actually paid attention, but that's not what we're here to talk about. In my universe, the Cybertronians will all have very vastly different traumas, beliefs, and morals. Now, I'm not saying Optimus is going to turn into a drug addict and start doing coke. I don't know why I had to specify that, but anyway. I'm just saying that the Cybertronians are going to have understandable backstories that help us better resonate with them. This brings me to the first film of the universe, and surprisingly this movie will not feature Optimus Prime. Now I need y'all to do me a favor and not click off the video. Let me explain. Optimus has been the main Cybertronian protagonist in literally every single live action Transformers movie besides from Bumblebee. Everybody and their mama knows who Optimus Prime and what he stands for. So I think to myself, why not let some other characters get majority of the spotlight in this universe to differentiate ourselves? I don't even know if I said that word right. Stupid! But we're going to give Peter Cullen a break for this one. And honestly, Megatron really won't be present either, but you're going to feel his aura throughout the movie.
Give me his dick back, nigga.
He's basically the MacGuffin of the movie, so the explanation for their absence is actually important, so I'm going to inform y'all on that. So, if you're familiar with the Fall of Cybertron game in episode 1 of G1, More Than Meets the Eye, which I'm sure you're familiar with, you're here for a reason.
Nerds.
But basically those two forms of media have a very similar backstory to how the Transformers ended up on Earth, so I'm going to use that as a palette for my universe. While Optimus and Megatron are scrapping with each other while approaching a space bridge, Starscream swoops in and shoots not only Optimus but Megatron off the ship as well, seizing the opportunity to take both of them out so he can rule the Decepticons with really no adversaries. Optimus and Megatron both end up flying through the space portal with their whereabouts unknown. So without Optimus and Megatron, the main protagonist in my film will be Bumblebee and my guy Shockwave.
You hear what he's saying?
Bro, I think
it's about time Shockwave got his flowers, and if I had it my way, he would get a solo film. I chose Bumblebee as a main protagonist too because he's personally my favorite and he's basically the mascot of the franchise now, so it'll be easier for him to carry a film because people already have an established connection with him. Now on to the motives. What do both sides want? The Decepticons minus Starscream want to retrieve Megatron, who crash landed on Earth and is frozen in ice on Antarctica. Bumblebee needs to rally the Autobots together so that they can navigate the unknown planet, but he's slightly cooked because during the Exodus, Megatron beat him and crushed his voice box. So yeah, this is where Spike Witwicky comes in. He buys a beat up 2004 Beetle, and with the help of his dad, he fits the new parts onto the Beetle, healing Bumblebee in the process somewhat until Ratchet can get to him. But I'm sure you guys know how the rest of this goes. The Witwickies find out Bumblebee is an alien and becomes friends and allies with the rest of the Autobots. Also, the military are here hunting the Cybertronians because you can't just not include the military in a Transformers film. Imagine something like this happening in real life and the military just like,
Ain't doing no wrestling.
the Decepticon side is much more tense. Shockwave and Starscream are butting heads because obviously Starscream knows that if Megatron is brought back, he's cooked. Meanwhile, Shockwave, using logic, knows that having Megatron will basically guarantee that the Decepticons win. So eventually the military and Autobots become allies after discovering the Decepticons' plan, which leads us to Antarctica. Now I want you to think to yourself, isn't this like one of the craziest ideas for a final battle you've ever heard? Like, can you imagine the Transformers fighting a battle across Antarctica? I outdid myself with this one. That one might actually top anything Michael Bay. I'm not even gonna say that. The Battle of Chicago will never be replicated or topped unless they actually give me creative control.
Man, shut your bitch ass.
But anyways, we get a cool fight across Antarctica between the Autobots and Decepticons. But Shockwave, majority of the fight runs amok on the Autobots. He's cooking. He's on a roll. He's putting up Michael Jordan numbers. He's eventually stopped by some shenanigans, probably having his eye poked out or something. This results in Starscream pulling back the Decepticons, allowing Shockwave to be at the mercy of the Autobots and humans, along with Megatron as well. Instead of just executing and killing the monstrous villains, they take them into custody because we're good guys. We don't execute surrendered people.
No, Optimus!
And afterwards, we get a happy ending like in the first film, where the Autobots earn refuge on the planet and become permanent allies with the humans. However, there's an end credit scene revealing Optimus Prime underneath the Bermuda Triangle. Is that even how? Anyways, he's in the ocean, in the Bermuda Triangle, building a star harvester along with the help of Lockdown, the Combaticons, under the corruption of the Quintessons. And like that, ladies and gentlemen, the series is revived.
I finally rest.
Now let me break this down to you. Let me lay it out for you. You get a sequel with Nemesis Prime, the Quintessons, along with Lockdown and the Combaticons. And who doesn't love Lockdown? and the Combaticons, they can be very likable too if you're unfamiliar with them. After this, the third installment will feature Megatron and Shockwave as the main villains after breaking out of custody somehow. And the fourth film will obviously be Unicron, but this time with a better voice actor.
Excuses complete the key. Oh, shiver my timbers! Shut up!
Personally, I would have Tony Todd voice act Unicron instead of whoever did in Rise of the Beast. And if you don't know who Tony Todd is, go do some research, boy. And just like that, I just got super sidetracked, but that's how I would handle the franchise. Now, obviously, I didn't go into crazy depth, but I can in another video if you guys want me to, of course. You know, if you like hearing my ideas, consider subscribing, like the video. But really, I just want to see the franchise thrive again. You can let me know how I did in the comments, and also throw around your ideas. Let me know where your heads are at, and I'll see you guys in the next video.